deck, but that's going to be fine. I'm sure he'll just play it on 3 and hit people with it. There we go. Easy.
Drawing Man Crick itself is just the first step. Outside of that, it's okay. Well, now you have literally no card draw in your deck outside of the Twilight Deceptor, which draws a very specific card. And you have a lot of cards to get through. I mean, he threw it away, right? He full mulled, so that should tell us everything.
Yeah. This matchup's interesting to me. We've heard the other 2 regions trying to make the case for like the Rogue being, I don't know, favoured or close to favoured or something. I don't even know anymore. I lost track of it, what they were trying to say. But the Priest is a decent favourite in this matchup, TJ. It's not a massive favourite. It's like 60, 55%. But it's just favoured. It's 34-23 up to the end of yesterday. 60% win rate in Grandmasters. And that's likely outside of just the realms of fluctuations. And it's because the Priest almost always does its thing, whereas the Rogue sometimes just doesn't. Coupled with that, the Priest has Mind Render Elucia, which just wins a certain percentage of games without there being a game. And for me, Priest is just favoured. I don't know how much favoured, but it's favoured. I'm absolutely sure of it.
Yeah. I think you are right.
Got my back. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like super often that we just hard agree on,
right.
specific matchups. So I'd say that one is kind of impressive.
Yeah, in fact, I'm actually kind of surprised we're not seeing more Priest bans. I guess that's one of the discussion points of the week. Because nobody has enough data to know how good the Brute deck is. And it's one of those decks that your mileage may vary. The Demon Hunter, because it's kind of 2 decks in one, and you quite often need to draw the right deck to win, and there's just not been the time to get the massive sample size needed to be sure. So I thought more people might actually just ban this Priest because it's so consistent, but here we are, we're in a Demon Hunter banning meta right now. Yep. Right, Muzzy needs to decide what to do about this Octobot.
Yeah, I think he's probably just going to attack into it. There's a coin in hand, and you're always worried about it, but you don't want to let them trade their Octobot in on their terms, right? You don't want like a Swindle or Shroud to come out and then Nalguidan to discount those minions that are in hand also on top of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just see a Traveling Merchant played here. It is a 5/6 and then a bump with the Frazzled Freshman and then go face. Just because, if it's this empty board, right, where he can't really attack into it. Whoa.
He doesn't want one of those. He wants this card, which seems a much better card. All right, so let's try.
That's a 5/6.
Yeah.
5/6 is pretty large.
It really is.
That's roughly 5 attack and roughly 6 health.
How much is it after you raise dead it, though, is the only thing I've got here as to why Muzzy might have decided to get rid of it.
Maybe,
he's got
but
Decepticon in hand, so he's getting a raised dead, blah, blah, blah.
That's like assuming it's going to die anytime soon.
Yeah. That's also true.
We'll see. We'll see if it works out for him.
If anyone else did that, I'd just be saying that it was wrong. But Muzzy's really good at that sort of decision.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. It's hard to not give the players the benefit of the doubt, right? So it does fit his curve. Actually, it would have fit his curve quite well regardless. Because he would have gone 3 into double 2s instead of trade 2 into double 2s. But maybe it's the raised dead that's really what's leading him towards going this route, which I think makes some sense, right?
Yeah, it's all I've got is what I'm going with. All right, so now we're going to find out how he wants to go with this. And constantly near-fighting your opponent while hitting them fairly hard is a pretty good way to win against Rogue in general. I mean, we talk about that. As it happens, Nalguidan's got a pretty awful hand as well. That needs to be factored in. Obviously, we all know that damage dealt to rogues is sticky damage. So the second you start actually getting them into the teens, they sometimes have to panic and garrote and hope. And already with one spell damage taken away, that garrote and hope option has got a lot worse for Nalguidan.
Yeah. This is looking quite grim. I mean, Nalguidan's expression kind of says it all, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's how I would feel with that hand as well. Muzzy deciding to protect against the Shadow Stepped Octobot here. I guess it's a problem, but if they're Shadow Stepping an Octobot, they're not Shadow Stepping a field contact, but they're not necessarily trying to combo you. If they get an Octobot procced again, maybe they get an army of minions on the board and start to actually give you some problems, especially with Kazakus. But the caster vision on this one is strong, right? We can see that Nalguidan's just achieving very little right now with his hand.
Yep. Okay, well, that Penflinger has stealth, so that's just a strict bonus, you know?
Yeah, I mean, whew, that'll hold him off. We'll call him Dimitri, because he's just sneaking around. All right, just play all the cards now, Muzz. There's no AoE. I guess there's a strong decision here. The horror for the immediate damage, or just the neophyte because you think you're winning in 2 turns. Neophyte acting like mini Elucia.
Job done.
Yeah, I just like the neophyte because it's just making Nalguidan's turns awkward. And at a certain point, if you stuck enough damage, you can kind of just mathematically get there. Because hero powers and the rogue just won't have enough ways to clear up the minions. You're just trying to delay the big swing turn from the rogue as long as possible. Right now, Nalguidan's just, I mean, he's had to incrementally deal with this board, and once again, doesn't want to spend 2 mana on a secret passage, so everything's just kind of awkward at the moment.
Yeah, and the Raised Dead getting back 2 cheap things rather than an expensive thing has worked out nicely for Muzzy. Again, rightly or wrongly, I'm not strong enough to actually call that one, I don't think, but seems to have worked out very well the way he planned this through. Okay. He's back and flinging pens. And the problem now for Nalguidan is even if he gets control of the board, the damage he's going to take, he's just dead to hero powers over 2 or 3 turns. He might get 1 Hail Mary, he might get 1 field contact and hope turn. But he's taken too much damage to actually win on board now.
Yeah. It's not like a critical amount of damage. Maybe after he sees the Wriggling Horror, he will assume that it is. Wriggling Horror, there's 6 on board. It'd be 8, 9, 10 going to face. He'd be at 8, which means he'd have, 4 more turns left at the most?
Yeah.
So next turn is kind of the last turn where he'll absolutely need a field contact swing of some sorts, but he's used a lot of his ability to go for those swings. He's played 1 Prize Plunder, 1 Shadow Step already. He's not playing a list that includes, let's say, Animated Broomstick to be able to just play all those battle cries and then use them to trade in.
Yeah.
So everything just seems like it's piling up at the moment.
But if he could kill everything and establish a couple of 3 attack minions, that would obviously make that clock a little bit better. But yeah, it's not just the 4 hero powers he's scared of here. And Muzzy's seriously tempted to just protect his board. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I like this. The Prize Plunder is like really one of the only minions you're scared of leaving on the board because that being Shadow Stepped back is pretty big. Brain Freeze is a good pickup.
It's quiet. Too quiet.
Yeah, that slows the 4/6 down, which is the minion that Muzzy was scared of getting wiped out from the Plunderer, so... This Flinger's going to have to do some work.
There's nothing really to prep out here, though. Oh, prize plunder, who's the next draw?
Oh, it would have been so helpful just to take out one more of these minions, and maybe then he could have at least got the board and had one attack turn and one field contact turn. But yeah, this way just isn't going to get there. Muzzy's actually got quite a tough decision here of how many of both the minions on board he doesn't want there, but just shoving 6 damage face, he wins in 2 turns.
Yeah, but I don't know if I still think you get rid of the field contact. Maybe push 4
I think
to
you have
face.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to only push 2 to face. That, I don't know. Miracle Land where you lose seems to come from giving your opponent too much time here. You've got to kill the field contact, because Miracle Land where you lose, they play 2 field contacts and it all gets a bit murdery. So yeah, this middle ground seems good.
Quickly.
Yep.
He's only got 2 reduced cards.
Ooh, oh no.
Ooh, I'm not sure. There's a lot of stuff going to happen here, TJ. If he hits a field contact or a decent removal from this one thief, maybe it turns. Maybe.
Fire sale is a clear. Also prepped right now, so he can actually load up on the board. He can fire sale, then prize plunder to clear off the board, and then just drop double Cult Neophyte.
Give me that.
And this is why I didn't really like the Penflinger pickup, or the Penflinger trade, because now Muzzy needs 4 turns of hero powers, and that gives Nalguidan a lot of time. Nalguidan's actually quite deep in the deck. He only has 10 cards left remaining.
Oh, he's got 8 attack on board as well. 8 does 27 pretty quick.
Yeah.
In fact, going down let's say they had no cards each left and no fatigue existed. Nalguidan with his hero power can do 9 a turn. Because the 8 on board, that's 27 in 3 turns. And Muzzy can only do 2 a turn, which is 4 turns. So, with what we can see, Nalguidan has hit the front. Now, Elucia might have something to say to that if she comes to play.
Yeah, but at this point, Elucia, like, the cards that are going to be left, Nalguidan's going to play every minion that he draws.
Right.
So the cards that are going to be left aren't going to be good enough quality for him to swing the game back around. I mean, if we just take a look at what's left in Nalguidan's deck, it's setup cards, right?
No. Yeah.
So it's pretty much the combo in a nutshell.
Yep. Just closing my eyes there. Muzzy having to shoot minions. Yeah, he's looking a bit shifty. He knows something's not gone right here.
Yeah, and
He was just scared of the 2 reduced cards.
Yeah, but I don't think you can afford to be scared with this kind of line. Nalguidan still has the combo intact, the full combo. A lot of times when you get to this stage, as the Shadow Priest versus Rogue, you've used your combo pieces, right? You're out of spell damage. We saw it earlier in Europe, right? In who was Bunny Hopper playing against?
Somebody.
I don't remember, but pretty much attritioned the Rogue. Because, Seiko. Seiko ran out of spell damage with his Garrote Rogue, and he had to just play his Garrotes for tempo at a certain point, and then he just ran him out of cards. He fatigued him with Shadow Priest, which was insane, but we're not at that point yet for Muzzy, because Nalguidan has still been able to hold on to pretty much every piece of his combo.
Yep, notice that he is dumping everything that you said he was going to play every minion, but just the little decisions there, like he didn't take a Flame Strike, which might be the instinct if you've not played this before. It's like, oh, take a Flame Strike, then my opponent can never have another minion. No, but they might be able to steal the Flame Strike somehow with Elucia, and then things might get bad. But now there's a tiny thing with a stupid sword and a horror that wriggles, and that's not doing anything. And this is a huge win for Nalguidan. In this triangular match of the same decks. Launch the Garrote because it does 4. Actually, make it do 5 because you've got Shadow Step.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What about making 8/8?
I mean, is this lethal next turn? It's lethal next turn, right? So. Would have been interesting if Muzzy had gone face for that too. It would have been a very close race, but he would have been able to ignore the board. I think he might have got there if he had just ignored everything and hoped it all went away.
Yeah. But unfortunately for Muzz, is going to lose in game 1. And that's a big win for Nalguidan. It was looking pretty rough, to be honest, at the beginning, just because the train of Cult Neophytes was too much to handle. But Muzzy was trading aggressively onto the board, which meant that his clock was not getting any better over the course of the game. So he just ran out of gas towards the end, and that's when the rogue kind of hits its stride. Very interesting place to be in.
He was really scared of that Octobot. Put a 3/6 into the 1/3 Octo that had already been procced. And I understand it can get shadow stepped and re-procced, and then things can get really nasty. But that takes time, right?
Yeah, the Penflinger trade as well.
Time, but yeah, they've got to have it as well. So yeah, I'd like to see him from that point on.
If you think about it, the Penflinger is really only going to take, maybe 1 minion off board, which is 2 damage, right? It's rare that you can get like 3 or 4 Penflingers in a single turn, or you're not removing much else. And so by sinking 2 damage into it, that's how much it would have killed anyway. So you're just, not netting that 2 damage when you have the opportunity to do so. So pretty bizarre. Even if I go back to turn 3, right? This one was arguable because he found Cold Neophyte, which then got put into the Raised Dead pool, which really blocked Nalguidan's early turns. But
right.
What if a 5/6 had just accelerated the game much faster? So
yep.
Just a kind of a weird game overall. But now Nalguidan gets to move over to his Shadow Priest. This one does not have the Man Crick. Instead, it does have those double Voracious Readers at 3 and only 1 Colteron Chaplain. This is the all but standard list, right? There's not much else that you can get in there, and people will be like, okay, that makes sense. The only difference in some of these lists is 1 Twilight Deceptor, 2 Colteron Chaplains, but it's such a small difference. It rarely matters, and we are going to get to see a Shadow Priest mirror, which is actually one of the cooler mirrors because it's all about board efficiency in the early game, and you can have these back and forth games that are pretty well fought.
Yep, and there's one of the cards, the tour guide in the opening hand for Muzzy. Basically, stick a thing on the board that kills half your opponent's minions and also lets you shoot at other minions. Good spot to be in. You don't keep the Raised Dead because you've got 4 Raised Deads. If you count the Decepticon, you're good. So yeah, this looks like that's a reasonable hand, and oh my goodness, Nalguidan has missed.
That's a terrible hand. Those are all the... Oh, okay, that's good.
Okay.
That thing's got a lot of health. It can be played on 1. Saved!
Kinda. So do you play the Homunculus now? If you don't play it now, you kind of never do, right? It's a 2/5 later on. You shouldn't lose the board because of it.
Yeah, I want a 1 coin 1 here. Just most stats on board. The only issue is then your turn 2 is kind of awkward, but Tour Guide is really not bad. The Homunculus is the most important piece of this puzzle, though, because Homunculus is just a lot of stats. So, yeah, and I was going to say, I wouldn't even mind if he just plays that.
Yeah, really rare you don't want to coin here, but keeping his options open to see where this ping goes as well is pretty important, I think. Nalguidan not messing around. Just got a curve like the curve he's been dealt. That's all he can do.
Ooh.
Just
Void
a
Touch
one.
Attendant is a fickle beast in this matchup. Because you can really only play it if you're ahead on board. Sometimes playing Void Touch Attendant can actually give your opponent a chance in a game where they otherwise wouldn't have a chance.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it's just a 1-3 otherwise, which is not bad stats, but when you've got the freshman, you've got a 1-4, and you've got plenty of other things to do. Yeah, you just don't need a 1-3 right now. Muzzy's in a pretty good spot on board, and Nalguidan in a terrible spot.
I've got exotic wares and funnel cakes.
Using to play his tradable minion. There's nothing else to do.
still a decent
Muzz.
amount of stats on board. So it's he's had a rough curve, and his curve is not really getting any better. He's just like playing the biggest one card, the biggest thing from his hand each turn. But that can just sometimes do it. Because Muzzy's got a hand full of like 1/1s and 1/3s, which is not particularly appealing itself. Cold Neophyte's not the greatest in this matchup because they're not really playing any spells most of the time. It's only Raise Dead, and it just dies to a hero power. So, Muzzy's
Yeah, it's really
everything out of the hand here.
Now you can play a Void Touch Attendant because the extra 1/3 is just so important, just to have even more stats out there. And he's actually going to insert face. No point in taking a terrible trade. Nalguidan has drawn really horribly this game. Like, unbelievably badly.
Yeah.
Might be okay to just play the Neophyte and shoot something. I don't think he'll want to gambling. It just doesn't get.
I think you do, just because Muzzy's at least gotta pay attention to it, right? He can't just ignore this Gandling and then. I mean, I guess he can win a race. He's got the Void Touch Attendant on board that he can now. Oh, okay.
15 damage if he wanted to stick everything into the phase, which he won't do. But oh my goodness, it must be tempting. But just taking down the Gandling and trading off. Oh, you could leave the 2/2 up, I guess. This is the tough part of the turn. But it's not that tough, right?
Yeah.
Look at his face, his smug little happy face.
Alright, just play a 5/6. Muzzy's shown a lot of respect for big minions. I guess Gandling's a little bit different than Benedict is.
Yeah.
26 health is actually a reasonable amount to work off of. There's 7,
It's
11,
14!
14. Yeah, it's not that bad.
Spoken like a man who hasn't only got 26 health. But yeah, I guess.
What else is he going to do? I guess he could ping and then play a 2/3.
Don't go down there. Don't go down that rabbit hole.
I don't know.
Anyone else lost?
14, you lose. The problem is you lose your Void Touched, and obviously your opponent plays more things next turn. I think Muzzy will assume that one of the cards in Nalguidan's hand is Elucia. Because why else would you still have 3 cards in your hand as a priest on turn 5?
Yeah, Lucia or Voracious Readers are really the only 2 things that make sense. Because if he's been like drawing that poorly, right, it would mean that he wouldn't be able to dump the Voracious Reader anyway. Or like some combination thereof. I mean, Nalguidan is actually very close to swinging this back, and honestly, I think he's ahead right now. Because he gets to drop a 4/5 and protect this stuff on board. Muzzy, the lack of Voracious Reader in this deck is just jarring. Obviously, he hasn't drawn any of the other cards that you would put in. Actually, he has, because that's the second Colteron Chaplain. That would have been a Voracious Reader in pretty much every other case.
Yep, and last game he threw the Mankrik away in the opener. So, not that he wouldn't have thrown a Voracious Reader away, because he probably would too, but, you know.
Yeah.
It is jarring, especially I played a lot of this deck. It's like, yeah, I like to just throw my cards on the board and then draw a load more cards and throw them on the board and draw a load more cards and throw them on the board. And if it's gone that long, I've probably lost. But sure, that's what I like to do. It's fun.
Yeah, here I think the best course of action is just to isolate the traveling merchant. He can trade his frazzled freshman into the cold neophyte, ping it off, then aug merchant the 2/1.
I feel that he needed to identify a turn or two ago that he was losing, like he was behind and needed to start going face, because he could have got a lot of damage into the face and maybe stumbled over the finish line. Maybe he wouldn't have got there, you know? It would have been close. But this way,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just feels like this never gets there. Perhaps I'm wrong.
All right, well, he's going to protect the Voracious Reader and then push face. Nalguidan's just looking for a double card.
Oh,
No! Because now he can only play Voracious Reader. He can't hit the last card. He draw 2 cards. Because if he plays Mind Render, he would just draw Muzzy cards, which is not what he wants to do. Muzzy's hand empty, so he can't capitalize on it. So he's not going to really build up a board this turn, but he's going to be drawing more cards. So that's the benefit.
Yep, it's going to be close. Maybe I wrote Muzz off a little bit too soon. This is a lot of damage. If he wants it, which I think he has to now, right?
Yeah. Don't fall into the same trap you fell into last game. Nalguidan has to trade every turn.
Yeah, exactly. And he's on 6.
Yeah.
If you want him to be on 6.
And he now cannot play Raised Deads, really. Because he can't afford to take that damage.
I think Nalguidan needs to go all in here and hope to hit his own Void Touch next turn, and that might get him there. He needs to take everything off the board, dump all this garbage. What are these minions in his hand? Like the things he needs on turn 1 have turned up, and then draw a Void Touch, and that's a lot of damage if he can get there.
Yeah. And again, his Voracious Reader is alive, so he doesn't even want to Mind Render or Lucy at the end of this. At this point, it would just be for a 1/3 to have another 1/3 on board. Doubt it would change the math. But Muzzy's just going to play whatever comes off the top and hero power face and then hope that he's got 2 more turns.
Yeah, I think a Void Touch will probably do it for Nalguidan because Muzzy would do 2 damage this turn and then 3 the next turn, and that's not enough. There it is! So it's not lethal next turn, but it's over half of Muzzy's health total, easily. It's 20, I believe, to a quick count up. Oh, if he draws Wriggling Hole, I'm actually going to have to count it properly. That's irritating. Oh, he can't. There's no board space. That's fine. So a second Void Touch for Nalguidan would be lethal next turn? Because you're trading one of the 1/1s and then the rest goes face. I think that's probably lethal. I haven't actually counted it.
It would be 8, 9, 10 plus 10, 20 plus hero power? Yeah, it would be. But doesn't draw it. Doesn't have one in the Raised Dead pool either, and wouldn't Raise Dead anyway.
Yeah, can't Raise Dead.
Chance. So Nalguidan has to find a way here to set up a 2-turn lethal and also take away these minions off the board.
Yep. And for me, that is just
Play everything.
if he plays the Void Touch, what could actually blow the Void Touched up? Anything?
Nothing.
Oh, playing the Deceptor is important to draw the
What do the
Raised Dead out of
cards
the deck.
say?
I don't know. This is going to be like his last turn of the game, right? So it doesn't matter if he has Raised Dead. It doesn't matter what he draws off the top.
Sure.
In most scenarios. And you don't play the Void Touch here because then that gives Muzzy a Void Touch attendant out for lethal.
Ah, good spot. So as long as you've still got lethal, I'm going to give him the credit for counting that because this turn took forever. The most it would have been counting and recounting. Yeah, it's easy. Next turn,
Yeah.
lethal. If Muzzy doesn't get him.
9, 10, 11. There's... Oh, man. That is funny.
That is actually really funny. Yeah, so it's lethal next turn. Nicely countered by Nalguidan. Of course, Muzzy doesn't know that. He doesn't know the Void Touch is in hand, so where he sat, he has to kill a minion, I think? No, he doesn't. Where he sat, it's on 13, so he pings face. And hope your opponent doesn't have a Void Touched or a Wriggling Horror.
Yep.
Because you lose to Void Touched anyway.
Oh, no.
Right? Have I counted this right? Yes, I have.
Yeah, he loses to Void Touch anyway. The ping is useless.
Alright. The old... Thank goodness I don't have to count this twice, because I've got 2 Void Touched. Cool. And it's 2-0, and that one... Just for a second looked like Muzzy might get there, but... I know there's a lot of over-trading, not recognising maybe or possibly that he was going to start facing 5-6 minions.
Yeah, and again, you know, like, at what point do you, like, stop respecting the minions, right? Because that was not a great start for Nalguidan. Even though Disciplinary Gambling is one of the best cards for the mirror, it just, didn't seem that powerful. So, we'll see if Muzzy can bounce back, but it does seem like the lack of voracious readers is really hurting him at the moment because he's getting close, but not close enough in each of these games, and just a couple extra cards could be the turning point. It just feels like he's been in a top deck war so often, and his top decks are just on average not as good. So
Yep, Nalguidan kept his head in both of those games as well, alluding, I've alluded to that earlier, that he seems to do that better than he used to, so significantly better than he used to, I want to say.
Yeah.
So he's down to just his handlock, and, well, it's a handlock. Where is it on the sliding scale? It's got pretty much all of the minions in, apart from an Etheron, which I don't think exists anymore. So it's a very minion, threat-heavy version.
Yeah, no unstable Shadow Blast, which is usually like the biggest cut in a lot of scenarios. So, and going with nulls, there are some players that are cutting the nulls completely. That fits into your threat dense comment. So overall, I'd say this is pretty good. Pretty efficient handlock.
Yep, concentrating on being a handlock deck, not a quest deck. Obviously, it can win with a quest, but it's more likely to win with some big old 8/8s that hit you in the face twice each. And Muzzy is going with a priest. I've got a theory, by the way. Alec Dawson's tweeted that there will be some nerfs next week, and a priest card will be reworked, apparently. So my theory is that Alec sounds like Elec, right? And there's been mounting pressure on him to do something. I'm pretty sure they're going to rework Elec Mount.
Yeah, card's been terrorizing the ladder for too long.
Yep, those 4/7
time for it to go.
Rushes just done. They're going to have to just give it the treatment, I'm afraid. Boom.
Agreed.
All right.
We found the problem card. All right. Well, if Muzzy can have some more success this time around, Twilight Deceptor seems perfectly reasonable here, just to get the Raise Dead out of the deck as quickly as possible.
I recognise this situation that Muzzy's in right now. He's got an amazing start with a lot of minions hitting face really hard. Where have I seen that in the last 2 games? Oh yeah, both of them.
Yep, it's happened in both.
This time, obviously, Nalguidan's got plenty of healing and removal. Not necessarily chunks of it now, but enough that he's happy to life tap. This is always has been the paradox of handlock style decks, where you take a lot of damage in order to save a load of damage soon after.
Yeah.
Yep, Muzzy buffing the 5 health minion because Soul Rend is kind of the only thing you can play around. You know all the other removal exists, but what you're supposed to do about it in terms of key numbers, there's so many different varied ways of removing your minions that Soul Rend is the only one that kind of matters at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
In Happy World, Muzzy would find some Divine Shields. That sometimes helps you out here.
In an ideal world, he'd find a Voracious Reader, but, you know.
He'd get disqualified, yeah, in this particular occasion, TJ.
Sometimes you just get really unlucky, and you don't put it in your deck.
Just, you get to the tournament and you look around and there's a Voracious Reader just not in your deck. Just sitting there anywhere but in your deck.
Oh man, I'm so unlucky. There's no Voracious Reader in my deck.
Yeah. That's the best language hacker impression I've ever heard.
He can actually still do some maneuvering around Soul Rend here if he trades off the 1/1 into the null and then buffs the health of the 4/5. So I like this. Also pushes a good amount of damage. He's got plenty of reload in the hand. Muzzy's looking pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, for some reason it will amuse me massively if this is the one he wins. Like, nope, can't get it done with those 2 starts, but somehow Warlock just didn't survive. Because Nalguidan doesn't have an easy path here to get sensibly into this.
No. A Soul Rend would be a start, but that's about it. Right now there is 11 damage being represented, 13 damage being represented if you include a hero power. That's a good chunk.
And this is one of the downsides. Yeah, there's obviously pros and cons. One of the cons to this particular Warlock deck is your bristlebacks are kind of slower. You're not going through your deck anywhere near the speed you are in some of the other builds. So they're slower to get online.
Here for the tour?
Yep, he's digging urgently. Nope, no weapons.
Blood is my currency.
So looking at the raised dead pool, we have Homunculus, Desk Imp.
I wonder.
That's it,
A
actually.
horror in there. Yeah, he can put a horror in there if he wants to now, which I think he probably does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, you were right. There is a Desk Imp and a Homunculus.
Okay, he can just go again.
There's one. Now,
So that is a pretty terrible looking hand outside of the Wriggling Horror.
I think you have the read that your opponent doesn't have the Soul Rend as of last turn, although obviously they can draw a card or two. Because there were some weird plays going on last turn. A sign of somebody digging.
Yeah, a hole that has a lot of dirt around it. It looks like somebody's been digging here.
Yeah. Can he survive even through one more turn? Looks like he can. But it's unpleasant.
Okay. Flesh Giant can come down.
That'll do it.
Yeah. So he has to Drain Soul here.
Yeah.
or dies.
Otherwise, it's lethal on board.
Or you die.
But is there anything else? There is just nothing else, is there?
Nope.
To cycle the Viper and look for another Drain Soul, but then what happens when your opponent plays minions?
So if he Tour Guide life taps, we go down to 7 and go up to 10, there'd be 9 damage being represented on board. Technically, you could do that.
I like this,
It is
actually.
just a technicality.
Now I've seen it, playing the Viper allows him to trade into the 5/8 if he draws Soul Rend.
Yeah.
Which, cool. Good talk.
I must consider.
More mischief?
Is anyone else lost?
You want this merchant on the board, so there's 2 different things that can survive a Soul Rend.
Exotic
Yeah, this will
wares.
all but certainly lock up the game because Nalguidan just won't have a way to clear off both of these minions. Would have to have been like the Drain Soul picked a second Drain Soul picked up last turn, and then Soul Rend picked up this turn, or something along those lines. So it looks like Muzzy will get a point on board.
Yep. Well, not a point. You get a point, TJ, for winning the match.
Oh yeah,
I thought we made that
once.
clear.
So, I'm so sorry.
But he will get a game on the board.
Yeah. My apologies.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll let you off. It has only been brought to our attention recently how that system works.
Impressive. You win
Yep.
this time.
2-1 gets 1 back and gets the priest out of the way. I'm not sure what that word was there, but it wasn't a swear word, I don't think. He's just like, yeah, that's it. Finally got the priest win. Now he's unstoppable. Obviously, he has left
Players don't swear.
his own. Do they not? Hearthstone players? Have they ever sworn? I don't think they have, actually.
They only know like Hearthstone words that they've learned on the internet. Never mind. Yeah, they certainly swear that if that's the case. But Muzzy, this was I would argue probably the weakest deck in his lineup construction-wise out of the way. So maybe now he can capitalize on that and move on to Handlock and Garrote Rogue and pick up some wins. Muzzy's is built ever so slightly differently with a Netheron and the Unstable Shadow Blast instead of the Knolls. That's the difference. And a Netheron is not a good card in a lot of matchups in the current metagame when you're emptying your hand. Shadow Priest being one of them. Garrote Rogue to an extent, right? Even though I think it's better, but in the mirror matchup, that's where it can shine because you just have another big threat in the deck that has to be answered.
Yeah, it's weird because in general, I think the fewer minions you have in your Warlock, the more favoured you are in the mirror. But Nalguidan's sort of past the break point. So him being slightly less minion-y than Muzzy, I don't think he doesn't like ramble through his deck so quickly he's going to win because of it. He's just down a Netheron and down a good removal spell in the Shadow Blast. And I don't think the Knolls make up for that, so fractional edge to Muzzy, although obviously it's a mirror match, all bar 2 cards, anything can happen.
Yep, and a lot of it comes down to the rod. And doing a quick Viper check here. Nope, this is America's Grandmasters, not Europe, so there's no Viper. But looking at the Rust Rod Viper check, the card.
Nice. Yeah.
No Rust Rod Viper in Muzzy's deck either. So did both my Viper checks, and none of them exist in Muzzy's deck.
Okay, so I mean that's good because you wouldn't want a European Grandmaster in your America's deck. That would be a disaster for everybody. But the card itself would be very useful right now because Nalguidan's about to make all of his cards cost less mana.
Muzzy's looking at his hand like, where's mine?
Yeah, it's only fair that we both start. We both start with a question in our hand. Why can't we both start with the rod in our hand?
Wouldn't that be great?
I think that'd be very fair. Only in the mirror, though. It might get a little bit much otherwise.
Muzzle their magic.
Yeah, the things that Nalguidan's drawing outside of the Rod plus Backfire are not great yet. But having like double discount on Bristleback and Scavenger do allow for bigger swings later on in the game because you can just do everything imaginable all at once you get to that 10 cards or less. Yeah, but here's where the Anetheron comes into play, and currently Nalguidan doesn't even have a way to acknowledge its existence.
What happens when you take Shadow Blast out your deck?
Yeah. And what's the pickup off the top? It's a Flesh Giant. That still doesn't acknowledge its existence.
8 mana, 7 mana.
Wait a second.
Waiting.
Okay, touch. If he hadn't picked up anything, Muzzy could have gone... Oh, never mind. He doesn't have a Battle Master. My bad. That's in Nalguidan's hand, not Muzzy's hand. And Muzzy would have had to coin it out, which means he wouldn't have been able to kill off his Tour Guide. If he could, it would have been exactly 22 damage.
That would have been a lot. Because that's how much Nalguidan's got. Right, so... Muzzy's, considering he hasn't got the rod, he's actually in a remarkably okay spot here, right? He's going to be able to put a lot of damage in, which means Nalguidan's going to have to pay attention to what's going on. And like you say, nothing in his hand actually pays attention to what's going on. Which is deeply unpleasant for him.
Deeply.
I don't know how unpleasantness is measured in terms of depths, but it always has been.
Yeah. Unpleasantness is measured exactly the same way that a well is measured.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. By circumference and depth.
So it's a well of sorrow.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
I don't know where we're going with that. We've definitely come off the rails. Muzzy able to
That doesn't
clear the board
happen
if he
ever.
wants. It's never happened before. It's unusual.
I wonder if he can get away with... I don't know. There's 9 cards in here right now. He'd coin Backfire, try and hit something that costs 1. But at this point, with both Tour Guides played, it would just be a touch.
Yeah, I feel like this Drained Soul is more just to make a bit of space than being particularly bothered. Obviously, it does protect his 8
Yeah.
which is super handy, but a lot of that turn just seems to make space so he can backfire happily.
Yep. Cool Neophyte here will just negate the discounts that the Rod gave. Raised Dead is still free. Nalguidan still doesn't have a way to answer this Anetheron, which is quite a bother.
If only Muzzy had thought to play a turn 3 6 health minion against the Rogue.
Yeah, if only.
But here he is, he's getting it done against the Warlock. And Nalguidan might have to just play Taunts and Hope.
Play Flesh Giant.
just plop it
Drain
out
Soul.
there.
He can Drain Soul, touch Flesh Giant, and then he's dead to the Battle Master. Still after that, wait, would he be? No, he'd go up to 19. He'd be almost dead to it, but it looks like he might just do that.
Okay.
Or touch plus play a Scavenger. Oh no!
And Hope Muzzy hasn't got a blast. Has Muzzy got a blast left? He only plays 1.
He only plays 1, so no.
Okay. Olren's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It allows you to chunk another 8 through.
So many possibilities.
I think he can get away with just a backfire here. He's gonna get it back.
Netheron.
He's only had 2 minions die, right? It's just been Cold Neophyte and Anetheron? Oh, no, he had the Mana Feeder. Okay. Still gets it back, though. There was 3 minions in the pool.
You are defenders of a doomed.
Doesn't get to play his rod, but it feels like the rod's kind of out of this game anyway. He's all in on this tempo push now.
He didn't get the second one back. It would have been a nice little play. He could have played the second Anetheron and then trade plus touch. Now he's got a trade plus touch anyway, but he floats a mana, doesn't get anything else online, no more pressure. So this is Nalguidan's opportunity to get back in the game. Viper's not the pickup, but if I'm looking at Nalguidan's deck, there's a lot of good stuff that he can hit. So he's
I mean, he
only...
can clear the board with stuff.
Yeah, Soul Rend, I mean...
Yeah.
With the Drain Soul would get him closer to getting, well, I was going to say the Bristlebacks and the Scavenger online, but he's just had to play him to live. Oh, jeez.
Flesh Giant's getting close. It's getting interesting.
What's that? Oh.
Another Flesh Giant.
So he's not really close to second quest completion, if I remember correctly. That's Muzzy's. Muzzy is 6 out of 8.
Nalguidan is obviously dead to Battlemaster. We made that point a few times, but Nalguidan, you know, there's only 12 cards left. Even if he knows it's not in hand, he's not comfortable leaving up being dead to that.
Yeah.
He's taking the time here.
And he also knows that even if he's able to clear this Anetheron, Muzzy is a tap away from getting to that 10 cards remaining point, so more threats are likely to come out.
Okay.
Because he's had to play so defensively, he's also falling behind on quest completion, so Muzzy can get a lot done here. The problem that he's running into right now is hand space. I think he has to dump both Cult Neophytes, and then tap, and then play a Scavenger. I think that's the play.
Works.
Yep. That'll be quest con. Oh, look at that! They're right next to each other!
Both Tamsins. What's the collective noun for Tamsins?
You get accustomed to the smell.
Well, them both. He's got no spells, so it doesn't really matter, the little Tamsin. But big Tamsin's going to matter.
Ooh. This is tough.
Checking deck trackers. Frantically.
Yeah. Oh, let's go to Fuzzy's glasses cam. That's what he's looking at right now. The remaining cards.
Amazing. You can see him looking straight at them. I think that because he's on the 10 card spot and Nalguidan is not, I think you trade here. Oh, he couldn't make his mind up and changed his mind at the end. The reason I think you trade there is just because you can win with your Tamsin next turn or grind it out. This also looks fine. I can see why he took so long on it.
Yeah, Nalguidan's kind of running out of discounts as well. And double Cold Neophyte is really going to block a lot from being able to happen.
Yeah.
Still 2 Soul Rends in Nalguidan's deck and a Backfire. But the Backfire would cost, unless it was discounted, which it probably would have been played at this point, it would cost 5 at the moment, which only leaves Nalguidan with 3 mana to do anything else, which is not allowing him to remove the board. He's not at 10 cards or less in his deck. And he's actually already played his Bristlebacks anyway, so he can raise dead to try and get them back, but then he wouldn't have anything to because he's not 10 cards left. All right, Battlemaster to kill things. It's a pretty miserable looking play, but you know.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Muzzy now for the rest of the game, which might not be very long, now never has to worry about a soul flesh giant, for instance. It's not pleasant, but yeah.
Yep. So now I would just like Tamsin just to get it online, and then a bristleback on the 5/5, and then push everything to face.
Because you know there's not another Battlemaster, which means you can only take 8. Nicely worked out, TJ. I like it.
Oh, Ray's dead into Battlemaster. Ooh. It still wouldn't be lethal because he'd be healing up to 24. Why did I say 26?
Good point, though. It's a good point.
He's going to kill the Flesh Giant, huh?
All right, well.
That's fine.
Yeah, he can kind of do what he likes here as long as he just doesn't leave all this on the board. He's okay either way.
Yeah, you can kill one of those things and play Tamsin. That's it. That was the puzzle. He solved it.
He solved it well.
Yeah.
Nalguidan hasn't solved the problem of how do I draw Soul Rend or get out of this. He's done really well, to be fair to him, to be not completely dead about 4 turns ago.
Yeah. Is the out here to raise dead into exactly Panthara Bristleback?
Panthara to draw the card, Bristleback. I mean...
And Scavenger would be free. I think that
By
also
out, you mean
completes
to
his
live,
quest.
right?
Not to live, because he can live on board with just this plus Scavenger.
Okay.
But to actually make a meaningful impact on the game. But that's just going to do it. Bristleback, tap and the 6 to face will be enough. And a weird game, kind of a scrappy one from Nalguidan. He had the great opening, but I said, as soon as we saw the cards revealed from the backfire into the rod, he had nothing. He had Bristlebacks and Scavengers and Flesh Giants and no removal. Nothing to have any sort of impact on board. And that's where the Anetheron came in. Did a whole lot of work.
Yeah, we were saying there's just the 2 cards difference. But what a card. It came back. It nearly came back 3 times. Muzzy was trying to hit multiple versions of it, but turns out when you don't have your 6 damage card and your opponent has an 8/6, things just get awkward fast. Obviously seeing there the slow lingering effects of Flesh Giant's multiple nerfs actually just wasn't ever worth dumping onto the board there. We get into somehow, in this weird series that looked like it was going to be over in 10 minutes, we're into game number 5, and it's Muzzy on the Rogue and Nalguidan on this ill-fated so far Warlock.
Yep. It would be a sweep in a sense from Muzzy.
A reverse sweep, yeah.
Yeah, a reverse sweep if he were able to take the win. But looking at Muzzy's deck construction, it is slightly different than what we've seen. There's an animated broomstick thrown in there. Instead of a
Penflinger.
Foxy Fraud. Oh, Penflinger, there you go. Foxy Fraud has been is all but phased out of most players' lists. There's just not enough combo cards in the deck to warrant running it, and sometimes those combo cards are even reduced, so it's just kind of a wasted 3/2 when you'd want to have things that have an immediate impact on the board.
Yeah, the only thing with Foxy Fraud, and a reason I don't think it's necessarily gone forever, is if the neophytes keep getting more and more prevalent, it can be better than prep late game, because obviously it's not affected. The Foxy part of it is not affected by the neophytes, where prep is. And people have started to learn to dump neophytes on you on turn 7 or 8 when you're trying to go off. And I don't know, we might see Foxy come back in place of maybe one of the preps, something like that, if people just keep neophyting each other. But that's very specific and quite unlikely.
Well, I have another very specific scenario that's also quite unlikely. If spell-based decks start to disappear from the metagame and Cult Neophyte gets cut from the list, well, then you want another Battlecry minion that's at that 2 slot that can also be played for tempo, and Foxy Fraud fits that perfectly. But with quests and just pretty much every deck that's powerful right now being largely spell-based, even the decks with a lot of minions, like Garrote Rogue, rely on spells to actually win the game. So even though they're minion based, they're really spell based. So Cold Neophyte is not getting cut anytime. Nalguidan, he just keeps doing it. Just keeps getting wrought into backfire. Last time he lost. We'll see if he can win this time.
Definitely the start you want with a deck. I think everybody knows that by now, though.
That's an upgrade.
Just reduce all of your cards and have another go at it as well. A turn later. Right, let's just gather the important pieces. Now, it's going to be interesting to see when he decides to play the first contact. I'd be looking at secret passaging next turn. Try and just dump some stuff from the secret passage. And then looking at a mini field contact turn the turn after that. And then you see where you're at. Try and get an Octobot and go for a big contact turn about 2 turns later. All depends if you're facing a giant. That can get really nasty really quickly for this deck. So you do want to try and keep sort of Shadow Step Plunderer in reserve at some points. Very rare you really get to kill a giant. Especially as another one just turns up the next turn. So you're not really looking at it. But if you can draw some cards at the same time as killing a giant, then good things happen.
Yep. And actually swindle again. Give himself one more opportunity to actually naturally hit the Octobot. There it is. Now we're cooking.
Yep.
Evolving missiles. Wait, Iceberger's also okay.
Don't take the potion, Muzz. Just gets too messy to commentate on. Not that there's anything really wrong with it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
These cards are so cheap.
Uh-huh.
And they're
he's
gonna
gonna be
get cheaper.
He's going to be able to cheapenify his cards really well next turn. If he even wants to do that next turn.
You can just do it this turn.
Oh, you're looking at the cheap cards on Nalguidan's side. I'm looking at the cheap cards on Muzzy's side.
This whole game, the cards are so cheap.
Aren't they just? Yep, so Nalguidan's double cheap cards. That is nonsense. Look at that hand. Casting costs are in binary.
Flesh Giant. You can play a Flesh Giant. Oh my god, the Flesh Giant's coming down. Ugh.
Alright. That's how Handlock beats Rogue, is early Flesh Giant. That is the #1 cause of beating Rogue.
Yeah. Alright, if I'm Muzzy... Nah, you can't do it. Can he go for the turn 6 lethal? I don't know.
I mean, so you want... What do you want to do? You want to Octo and Prize Plunderer and then prep out a secret... Oh, you can't prep because you want to win next turn.
No, just play Secret Passage because it's free.
Yep.
Oh, he's going for it. He's going for the 1 poison. Didn't hit it.
Got the Rush, and he's got a Devolving Missiles. Oh, it's the 1. He's gone for the 1.
Yeah, I think he was trying to hit 1 deal damage poison.
You can't get the Octo down now.
Too soon.
Freeze, I guess you do it.
Okay. Okay. Missed.
I'd have liked to see him mini pop off there, honestly, and just start getting through his deck. Because this board, when one giant comes, there's always more behind. They bring their friends.
Start with a
Okay,
tippity tap.
Neophyte looks good to me now to sort of protect the giant and the board that he's building.
Yeah, Neophyte Drain Soul seems pretty good.
Neophyte Drain Soul seems decent indeed. You could also Neophyte into just play the Viper, but I prefer the Drain Soul, so does he. And this is just nasty for Muzzy.
Yep.
think he's at the point now where you have to pretend to yourself that Battlemaster doesn't exist.
You're paying for my discretion.
Initiating overdrive.
Now he's got to never use one of the shadow steps because he's going to need a second spell damage at some point.
He can clear the Flesh Giant here with Prize Plunder, Shadow Step, Prize Plunder.
Yeah.
Give me that. Love what I
Can he kill the Flesh Giant with this? No. Oh, he can prep Brain Freeze and then kill it.
Or he can... Yeah, I like that.
Wait a second.
Too soon.
Okay,
Is it?
that's
I haven't
is that
counted.
7? I thought that was only 6.
We're going to find out.
He better hope it's 7. Okay,
It's
it is 7.
Whew. Were you worried, TJ?
I was very worried for a moment.
I'd find
All
this
right,
evolving off here as well, because I would like next turn to go field contact secret passage and draw everything. I just want to
That's his last field contact, though, and he does have a Shadow Step remaining.
But he needs to shadow step the spell damage, or he won't have enough damage to win the game. He only has one Org Merchant left.
Yeah, one Augment and one Shadow Step, and Nalguidan's at 30.
He's used Kazakus, so he can't do the old Kazakus spell damage cheat. So yeah, he has to keep.
Oh, the 2 best.
Muzzy's got to plan this turn. He's got nothing going, so this is going to be one of those turns where you fire off the garrote and just hope everything happens in the right order. Because he's dead to everything next turn. Yeah, he's just dead.
Yeah.
You don't survive these, TJ.
Can discover a flurry from Wand Thief to keep himself alive in some scenarios. But,
I'm sure when Nalguidan's shaking his head, I think he did everything right there. He kept himself out of 24 range, which is important. He got the near-fight down. He set up lethal.
I think it's whether or not he kills the Prize Plunder over killing the spell damage Octobot.
Oh!
I don't.
Yes.
I don't know. It's such a small thing, right? Because Prize Plunder could come down and clear the rest of the board, whereas Octobot might give Muzzy a very, very, very small window of opportunity.
Yeah, that's what's wrong. He can actually do 32. I mean, he can't because he's under a near-fight. Yeah, but you're right. That's the mistake, is leaving up the Octobot here. Because technically, the stuff is in Muzzy's deck to get lethal. But yeah. Nalguidan did all the important things right there. What can he Wand Thief into that costs, well, 3 mana or you a spell?
Brain Freeze
Too soon.
Sure.
costs 3 or 2. Play a Cold Neophyte alongside it.
Nice.
Is
And
he still dead to battle?
he's dead to half of Hearthstone.
Okay. I'm really surprised Brain Freeze didn't come out there. Was he dead to Battlemaster either way?
Strike. Then strike hard.
I don't remember the board state. I don't remember if there was enough stuff on the board to be dead to Battlemaster either way. Maybe if he did the math, he was dead to Battlemaster either way, so needed to clear off as much of the little stuff as possible to prevent lethal without Battlemaster. But yeah, that was just a nice display of handlock from Nalguidan. I mean, obviously he had the nutty opening with Rod into backfire, but knowing when to pressure, getting the Flesh Giant out as soon as possible, right? Like utilizing all of his resources on that one turn, pacing himself, not just ripping the backfire on 4, but instead getting efficient quest completion with a hero power and Mana Feeder Panthara, and then a backfire on 5 when he knew he could go for that big swing turn. It was nicely executed, so he used the resources that he was given quite well, even though those resources were good.
Yeah, and he played well in the other games too, I feel. The game where he got nothing, he managed to make it last like 10 turns. The games at the start where it looked like he was just going to lose to Priest, he hung in there, gave Muzzy a chance to make mistakes. He gave Muzzy questions which Muzzy could get wrong, and I think we're of the opinion Muzzy got a couple of those wrong, but it's hard to tell for sure. But it looked awkward at times for sure. And he gave Muzzy a chance to make mistakes. So very good, very experienced play from our World Championship contender, and he's into another semi-finals, looking good on it.
Yeah, Muzzy, I think still going to be reasonably happy to end the week in a top 8. I mean, he'll end at 10 points.